We'll just have to find out, as now it is time. I think eyes are going to be on things like Yone, things like the Talia, especially. Vi will be permabanned throughout the entire series. That is not something really to worry about. But I think there will be some 80 carries that slip through. Who is going to get the Kalista in game number 1? There are a lot of these questions that are going to crop up, as there are only so many things you can take away.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be allowed to play Kalista in this series. Every time we have seen it, it just felt like it was a pretty big problem. As you're highlighting, though, there are so many OP picks, so many champs that make us go, why does X player get Y champion? One of the things that I do think is important as we see that Yone ban, we saw in the series against Gen G that with Chovy specifically, he was able to find lane encounters to some champions that were considered kind of impossible to deal with. Neither of these players really play towards lane all that much, right? Both Zeka and Faker, I think, are more known for what they do out of lane. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just go for champions that have maximum impact. Talia, the Galio are ones that I'd be looking towards.
T1 looking to potentially trade, like they haven't banned Vi yet. They're looking to trade Vi for Kalista Renata. That would be such a bold choice when Renata's strong into dive compositions, but when you don't see Vi in that first spot on red side, you're starting to wonder like what kind of game is T1 playing here, because that's the obvious one, that's the permanent one. We have never not seen that one. So some decision making here in this final moment about it, and they are going to leave both, the Kalista of course and that Vi. So I mean, I kind of what you value.
I had a feeling that they were going to gamble with the Peanut Vi situation.
It's gonna be Vi.
They have to lock it in.
Because the Kalista Renata, as good as it is, Nico is still open. Has actually made it through the draft. If you answer with Varus Nico, that's playable. I don't think you can give Oner Vi, and we trust Peanut on Vi blindly as well. So, but T1 knew this was going to happen as well. Yeah. And the only thing that makes me kind of wonder is, I feel like the Poppy in particular we've seen be used with great efficiency. Another answer is Skarner, but Skarner has been a bit hot and cold, and Oner's performance last time was not necessarily the best.
Yeah, I think you pretty much have to go for the Kalista setup here, though. There's not really any other way to approach this, although T1 disagree. And we'll at least look at the Gwen.
Yeah, you could theoretically pick the Kalista, see whether they're going to pick away the Nico, and then opt in for something else other than the Renata.
You could also lock the Nico here and deny their Kalista counter, and then get the Kalista Nico as a response.
I think with those two bans, though, you're gonna be gunning for the Kalista. Like, both Poppy and Talia are so good into it. It'll be really a big gamble if they don't, but you're right, they are gonna go for the Nico instead.
I think this is kind of the checkmate moment, because you deny they don't want to play Kalista anymore now into this Nico, and then you still get to have it.
This is the problem for me, though, is you can't deny Ahri Vi from Peanut and Zeka. And we haven't seen this combination like all year because it's illegal. You're just not allowed to see it because Vi has been banned in every single game. This has, like, point and click, you're dead is basically how it works. And Zeka is no stranger to the Ahri play as well. Let's see whether HANWHA Life Esports are actually happy to pick away the Kalista. That picture is hilarious. And instead, it's going to be a Jax consideration for Zeus. Fire with fire here on this top side into the Gwen.
Yeah, really powerful, though, into the Gwen if you play through that top side and get the side laning power there. But this is the more obvious response to the Gwen with the Rumble ban, obviously. This has really been the go-to for so many players that know how to space it well, know how to play this matchup incredibly well. And Zeus is the Jace in the top lane who will dominate that lane, and you can absolutely play through it here in this draft. This is where you gotta lock Kalista, though, right? Surely.
Well, so with the Vi on the opposite end, I can see why you wouldn't. One of the big weaknesses that Kalista does have is getting locked down. And that isn't an option here. Might still go for it just because of the raw power of the pick. And with the Nico as well, we saw KT use this combo with such great power. When it comes to the Jace, I like it with the Vi as well as the Ahri, because it both allows you to do a little bit of preliminary work, soften up some of the targets, but you can also go in when the Vi, when the Ahri actually go in and pull the trigger on that dive.
Now, I think the obvious ban is give me that Victor. That was the consideration over the Kalista here for T1, as it is a pick that Faker's incredibly comfortable on, has been so high prio for T1, and shores up a lot of their damage. Instead, they take away the Nocturne first, as the Xayah ban is also pretty obvious here in this draft.
Yeah, the Xayah ban is actually kind of interesting. I was expecting a Jhin ban to come through just because Viper being able to sit back, play that utility role, and to allow for even more of these single target picks with the Deadly Flourish will really synergize with this composition that they've already put together. I know I'm advocating for Jhin. Makes me feel weird too.
It's okay, Atlas. You know, sometimes we just get caught off guard by our own or in tendencies.
I was thinking about this. I was actually considering something like this because they need a lot of physical damage.
The Fury feels like it's a better fit, though.
Not only do they need physical damage, but actually, yeah, I was about to say, they need engage, because they don't really have great engage right now. Obviously, you can throw in the Nico, but it is very all-in. Wukong, to me, feels both the niche of being able to provide a reliable source of AD damage, as well as the CC, or the AoE CC to combine with the Nico, while also having a consistent angle to get on top, because both the Xin Zhao, with the way Oner plays it, as well as the Nocturne, would have provided the surefire way to start fights.
I think that you're looking for any sort of strong matchup here. The Jhin would have been a good option. Obviously, you have such strong, powerful engage to allow the Jhin to follow up. Misfortune is
MFRL.
Yeah, the Rel comes through. Going to be a tougher lane matchup. And now this Nico, I don't think we really thought it was going to be a flex, but it definitely won't be. And Faker will be the final lock-in here. Could go for damage because you have a lot of peel with this Wukong, or instead, in this case, you could just go for the ultimate ability to brawl hard with this triple melee composition that has the Nico engage, and you basically can go on to anyone. The Ahri is not going to be safe. The Jace is certainly not going to be safe. And this immobile AD carry in the Misfortune has...
It does, but once they get ahead, I mean, single target pick, you make that map dark, it becomes a scary, scary place. Let's jump into the Rift for game one.
하나, 둘, 셋. T1 하나, 둘, 셋.
Oh my goodness, we were missing this yesterday, but this stadium just erupted with the T1 cheers. Everyone making sure that they're here to see whether T1 can stamp that ticket to MSI. Of course, quite a few HLE fans here in the audience today, but the most popular team in this entire esport, certainly still very loud.
And in the entirety of esports as well. Of course, they're a multi-game org themselves. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Faker plays on this Sylas, because that is one of the big cruxes of this draft. And, you know, individually he has been struggling in some of these melee into ranged matchups where he is the melee. And we'll see if he can, you know, deal with Zeka in this early laning phase and how he looks in the first few skirmishes, as it is going to obviously be a high-impact champion in this draft. It's not the Giga Sylas hijack angle draft here for HANWHA, but there's still some good ultimates, especially the Ahri ultimate, to get you to close the gap.
Yeah, they both actually have Vi, as it turns out.
Yes, also that.
Zeus going for the phase rush here, which I think, particularly into Gwen, who's looking for these short aggressive trades, actually works out quite nicely. We have seen Gwen's early game be somewhat mitigated. I think Grass still goes a long way, as we can see here. But this top lane matchup, I think once the couple of levels comes in and Zeus gets access to more skills, he should be able to maintain a decent level of prio. Both junglers currently in the top half of the map, pathing towards bot. Zeus has the level 2 gap, but Doran does find the sidestep still, though. Trade a bit rough.
Does have to dash away. Doesn't have
does
to
he
use
miss
the flash or anything like that.
Yeah, he misses a good amount of experience there.
Yeah, that's huge. We did see Zeus use his pot. Doran, however, did not commit to his, so still has that potion in the inventory. Azeka is doing what you're supposed to do in the first few levels of this match, which is proc Electrocute on Mass. And so far, that is working well for him. Down here, the Misfortune pick hasn't really gotten its value just yet. It's tough playing into Kalista Nico with any champion.
Yeah, I think probably just waiting for that lane swap opportunity as early as possible. Yes. T1 was doing that all day yesterday as well, but this wave, a big one, going to be crashing towards Doran's turret. Might even be plate territory. It's a huge wave.
It's also a big deal that T1's bot lane actually maintains this pressure, because both mid and top are not going to have prio, right? So that means there's a lot of freedom for Peanut, and he has a lot stronger ability to impact the map, especially pre-level 6. Post-6, it becomes a little different, but even post-6, I feel like Vi, there's a reason why this champion is just permaban, right? It makes it so easy to set up any play, even on traditionally slippery targets like the Gwen.
Oh dear. As to the skies, Flash has to be used this time around as Doran was out of dashes.
I mean, this top lane, watching it though, has just been absolute cinema between Doran blocking there with his Shroud, the Q from Zeus, but it's still obviously going to be a Jace favorite matchup with both players playing perfectly, and Doran will be shoved out of the lane first here. Does have his teleport, of course, so it won't be too consequential, but it's a pretty significant advantage that Zeus has already picked up. Stops the back as well.
Oh, Peanut going to be grabbing this scuttle. It is a trade of the two of those between these junglers. Oh my goodness, Chomp connects and Faker! He has to flash! Otherwise that true damage would have killed him.
You saw Zeka for a split second there. He was like, oh, walked close, didn't actually commit the flash. I think the right call. I don't think they knew for certain where Oner was. Could be backing or could be right next to you in the lane, and getting the flash is just a big win, because again, there's a Vi on the enemy team.
Yeah, Gumayusi is going to swap up here to the top side now as Doran heads down to the bottom side with his teleport. Tough matchup to play out here. And it's going to be a free back for Zeus in the meanwhile with the push coming through.
Yeah, first straight going to be a Chemtech as well, so Orcs off the hook immediately in this game, which means that he's probably able to breathe a sigh of relief, get back to his job instead of worrying about what dragon it's going to be. That's fantastic stuff. As Faker back in the lane once again, has augmented his build with a ring and a book. Not necessarily going to be feeling too much better about this matchup just yet.
Really interesting to see who's going to be the one to pull the trigger on Dragon, because right now T1 has vision advantage from their Kalista push in the bottom side, but obviously now Doran is going to lose control of this lane, and Faker does not have mid control.
Yeah, so Keria looking for a bit of an angle here, starts it with a Pop Blossom instead of those Tangle Barbs.
It seems like Peanut is going to head over there. Is on vision though, as Doran.
Oh dear, Doran goes into the circle. Shock Blast goes wide though, as now Doran looking to try and put on the pressure. Let's see, the snips are coming in, and there's a pause!
Oh no,
Zeus, he couldn't face it! He couldn't face being solo killed by Doran, or something has gone catastrophically.
Well, Zeus still has flash, right? So...
Oh, there's the flash.
There it is, yeah.
So the one auto and then the flash does actually come in. As the chains are going to connect here from Faker, finding a really good trade with the Kingslayer, feeling like he can just shake off the earlier harassment that Zek was able to put down.
Yeah, we'll lose some farm for it though.
And unless there is an actual punishment, that flash from Faker being forced doesn't really matter that much, right? So we'll see. Once level 6 is available, there's definitely an opportunity, as we do know Faker loves to go in for these skill checks. I think Zeka also maybe expecting that, ready for it, but it's going to be wave clearing for now.
Not too worried about it. Zeka was considering a back, but Oner comes over to clear out this control ward. Zeka is not going to risk it. Peanut on the dragon already.
Yeah, the dragon I mentioned earlier, especially with that play from Doran there on the flash taken away from Zeus, just feels like a pretty easy setup. Now, I say that Oner is looking for a potential steal here.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they thought he backed because he was on the ward.
Well, he can see Peanut, but he couldn't see the health bar. As we
I
can
think
see there, as Peanut, gets
a suspicion
wind of it. And Oner comes in. Let's see who's going to be able to take this, and it's Oner just stealing it away.
Even with the shock blast from Zeus.
Yeah, not able to coordinate it, unfortunately.
That's massive.
Burst the burst that's available to the Wukong is, I think, just more than the Vi. I think Peanut there was trying to also time it with his third hit of his passive, right? The W, that is a good amount of percentage health damage, but doesn't quite get it. And Oner able to get them an early dragon.
Nicely played. It is one Chemtech, not end of the world or anything like that, but if this is a sign of things to come, that could be dangerous, because we saw in the last series, once again, it was Canyon finding all of those smites against Peanut. Peanut hasn't necessarily had the smite hands in series, in fact, throughout this entire year, to be honest.
It's not one of his most famous traits as a top jungler player.
Not necessarily, no.
Those aren't the reasons you usually talk about Peanut being a great player.
Yeah. And to be, okay, never mind.
Looks like it's probably Guma still, based on his facial expression.
For one, ladies and gentlemen, it has continued for quite some time. But, you know, not a whole lot of notable things have happened. Some flashes being blown by both of these top laners, and it was looking like Zeus was getting the control. That last play showed us that Doran's level up that he showed us yesterday is continuing even in this matchup. His Gwen has been great all year, to be fair, but still showing that that form was not temporary.
Looking at the sums available right now, neither top laner holding on to their TP, and it is very likely with 6 for Oner, we are going to see a fight around the grubs. Neither support is even close, as there we go!
Yeah, we are flashing in and flashing out is Oner. So that's a flash for flash trade. I think Delight going to be okay with it. Doesn't have Hex Flash.
Well, the Wukong, though...
And he does have Spell.
Yeah, the Wukong, of course, does have... Okay, hold up.
Yep, Doran going aggressive once again.
I was going to say the Warrior Trickster. Warrior Trickster can help close the gap, and they will be looking for that as they have a great angle here with Keria on the flank. He doesn't have 6, but just a root would be enough to deny Delight entry. And it looks like HANWHA Esports have just lost interest in the whole thing, and they're just going to give it over to T1.
Yep, not going to be grubs. Peanut instead just going to head towards this bottom side jungle. Look to steal that one away.
And maybe also worry because Doran does have his TP available now, right? His was a lot earlier on the cooldown. If that play had worked and they had been able to pick off Oner, I think they would have definitely gone for it, but not going to be the case, as Doran It's going to find each other, but obviously Zeus really wants to get a base in, only sitting on a tier as well, whereas Doran, we could see with those plated steel caps, really getting the better end of those trades.
A lot of value out of that one. Gold incredibly even, as we can see, is now Zeka moving forward. Peanut's here, though. He's even got cease and desist. It's going to be used by Faker as he hijacks it away. And there it is, returned in kind. And Zeka will finally claim the first blood.
It's a frustrating matchup to play as the Silas. You know, you get charmed like that, you eat that electrocute, and you feel like you have to go back in. You have to make it an even trade, or eventually just get worn down in the lane. But when you don't know where Peanut is and you make that call, Peanut every single time will come in for the punish. I think Faker just hijacking there, looking for something back, but doesn't even commit the flash, knows he was dead.
And the crazy thing about that play is it felt like not that they already knew they had the kill. It was just, do I have to use my ultimate, is what Peanut was doing.
Also, we just spotted Peanut on bot side. Like, he was spotted by Doran. They knew he was in the bot side, so I think that it's understandable, as you're saying, Wolf, as in a melee matchup, particularly with Silas who has so much sustain, you need to try and go in for that. But again, we knew he was there, and yes, his bot side camps are up, but it's Peanut. This is not the man that is just going to power farm, you know? If it's Canyon, maybe you get away with it.
He knows those pressure points, you know, and Peanut's very aware of this. And I think Faker's case, like, if he just keeps getting poked out, he's going to look for a play here.
Yeah, Charm is going to connect. That will save Zeka for now, but Faker actually still with his foot on the gas here in this game.
Just to contextualize further Faker's decision to go in there, I mean, he's 20 CS down, right? He doesn't want to just lose a few minions there because of that trade, because Peanut might be nearby. And that's the problem when you're falling this far behind in this matchup early, is you have to make risky decisions, and this time he gets punished.
Well, you can't make it anymore. Malignance is now in for Zeka.
Yeah, that is a really big spike, and in any situation where you have a mid laner like this, one that wants to dive and you have a Vi, as long as one of the two is fed, you're feeling amazing. HANWHA Life are really going to get a ton of value out of these double spikes here. We have the Sundered Sky, we have the Malignance, Oner, Faker, neither of them have it ready. So I would hope that T1 chooses not to go and fight this dragon, seeing everyone path towards bot. I know that's not what actually is going to happen, but I think they are at a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to those items. And we'll see if they're able to navigate this play regardless.
Yeah, Gold still extraordinarily close. That is only first blood. Gold really in it between these two teams, so nothing really to worry about.
I think the Cyclone has to be game-changing if this is going to be a fight they can win down these critical items.
That was so many Wukongs that Peanut just had to watch. The army of monkeys heading towards the Vi as, all right, cease and desist comes out. Peanut just starting this fight as he flashes away. Pop Blossom to stop any sort of follow-up, as now Peanut is just alone in the enemy jungle. Bullet time comes through. It does get a bit of damage down, but it's not going to kill anyone. And now Faker, with that Spirit Rush available, looking to try and close in on the rest of HLE. What was that, Peanut?
Item spikes be damned. If you go in alone 1v3 into the enemy jungle, having just 2 spike advantage doesn't really matter.
Well, now Zeus is fighting against Doran. They, I was going to say trade ultimates, which I guess is kind of true, but Jace doesn't really have one. As Doran throws out the needlework, and Zeus is going to be feeling okay in this matchup. Oh my goodness, it is a Hextech haul, as T1 have 2 Drakes already in this game.
Doran going to get chased away here. He does have teleport, so it's not going to be the end of the world, but pretty annoying for that to be delayed. And yeah, I mean, Peanut's decision there, he thinks, okay, we have such an advantage that we can actually just force this and blow up a single target, and that'll be the end of it. But you're playing into a Nico, and the zoning power here for T1 is just absolutely insane. So we'll watch this again. Peanut does not have full information of this Banana Brush at all. Goes in, flashes the wall here. Keria zones a follow-up, gets the double root, and then Faker also delays here, takes out half of Zeka's health bar. And there's just not enough damage on this MF at this point in the game, and Peanut is just solo dead.
It's the double root. It's also the fact that if the light has flash, I think there's actually a world there where they blow up Oner, and then maybe the fight is playable. But we knew the light didn't have flash, and without him having that summoner available, you can't follow up in time with where he was. So Peanut just too quick on the trigger. That means that T1 even getting a really big advantage when it comes to the objectives. And there are so many champions on the map that use Hextech well. It's Gwen, right? It's Jace on the other. It's kind of disgusting.
Not to mention, Peanut also loses Flash on that play. You know, Flash to try to escape, still dies, can't turn the fight around, so...
And also, they didn't really need to go that ham. We were already talking about the fact that they had these item spikes. You can play it slow and probably still win. You don't need to like go for the opportunistic play As Zeus here towards this bottom side, dealing with quite a few bad guys in the area, but does have Delight over there. And Peanut once again back to that dangerous location. It did give him some trouble before, as oh dear, Gumayusi could be in trouble as once again, cease and desist comes down. He does have flash, so he's going to use it. Bullet time coming on in, as the Cyclone there from Oner defending his AD carry. The flash not quite working, but now Doran throwing some needlework towards Peanut, who wants to get himself away and does Vault Breaker out. Charm will connect, as now Doran could be in a bit of trouble, fighting off his ex-teammate, but no one going to die outside of Viper, who fell unfortunately in the aftermath.
Beautiful collapse there from T1, and Doran tried to cancel the Vi Q from Peanut over the wall with that flash.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite find it, but the big story is, even though Guma loses his sums, Oner ensures that the trade goes the way of T1.
Yeah, it was a really nice play there from Oner. Still has his flash available, and you know, in this moment for Peanut, you're thinking you're the police. You're like, you can't be that far up. I'm gonna once again catch you. I'm going to punish. I'm gonna get this Kalista, but at the same time, there is that follow-up from T1. They are in the area, and you don't have enough damage to actually burst that Kalista down quickly enough. And so Guma kind of baits them in there, and it's 2 plays in a row for Peanut that looked like they could theoretically work. They were a smart idea in the initial setup, especially when you look at where Delight is here too. Like, okay, the rest of T1 is so far away on the bottom side, but Oner this close.
And the Magnet Storm did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, couldn't quite lock him down.
The follow flash to get the second activation is why Viper is the one who dies. Just can't do anything as this MF in this situation.
In hindsight, it might have been better because they would have killed Guma, but I think the play might have been worse. So for HANWHA, the fact that Guma gets out there, they only gave up 1. If they actually spend the extra time with that TP from Doran, I think they could have been in some real dire straits, but it's still T1 building the lead, getting the objective control.
Yep, money for nothing. As, okay, Delight looking for another Shattering Strike. Gumayusi on a ward. They did know that he was walking over there as the Make It Rain coming on down once again. Keria taking a bit of damage as the Rift Herald is on the minds of HLE. Gumayusi level 11 now as Shock Blast does so much damage. And look at this, they're just in the blender. This time Delight making something happen as Doran gets into the backside. Oner has found Peanut once again. And now the bullet time's gonna need to save them. Gwen is immune, ladies and gentlemen. That's allowing Doran to survive. But the Rift Herald's still up and T1 are gonna take even more this game.
It's Peanut again, disconnected on the other side, but it's Oner who goes for the punish, and Oner has just been shutting him down in these big fights where there's just a big discrepancy between where Peanut is, the targets he's chosen, and HANWHA Life's ability to follow up at range.
It's the same play, except this time Delight is there, but he doesn't actually hit the CC chain onto Oner. Oner actually gets the, I think he W'd out. Let's take another look here. I'm pretty sure he W's out so he doesn't actually get hit by the Delight spear. There you go.
They burst the charm, or they burst the clone, but not the real Wukong.
And then when Peanut goes in, you need to be in sync with at least Zeka. The fact that Keria zones away Viper and Zeus is rough, but not the end of the fight. But you need to be in tune with your Ahri. That is the crux of this entire combo. And thus far, HANWHA Life are not hitting the execution threshold, which is crazy. It's Vi! It's Ahri!
And it's starting to look like maybe Peanut, like a lot of our other junglers, have probably given up practicing this champion more recently, because it is just permanently banned.
And I don't think it's really about his mastery of Vi. I think it's about the team's lack of coordination around it.
The team needs practice playing around it as well. Like, you need to keep that one well oiled.
They need to win this fight, and it's only a 1k deficit. Sums are available for Viper.
Okay, well, Peanut a little bit distracted there. Doesn't use any big cooldowns on the clone. As, yeah, they're not out of it just yet, or anything like that. It's just some worrying signs so far in this game.
If they lose Drake, they are.
Yeah, Faker's hijack's coming back available. I think that was a small window there for HANWHA Life to maybe look for something and play through that choke, clear up Banana Brush, but they just kind of give it up. And if T1 get this, like you said, sole point, and that's a bigger advantage than the small gold lead that T1 has right now. The fact that they can play around that sole point and threaten it, because it's basically checkmate in this game, gives HANWHA Life such a large lack of agency.
And HANWHA Life, if Peanut was spotted on that ward, the Drake would have already been gone. Now he will have time to be in position, at least threaten the steal. And there could be an opportunity, but we need to see a more synced up HANWHA Life if they want to win this, as there comes Doran in again.
Yeah, teleports coming through from everyone. Zeka going to make his way over. Let's see whether this soul point can be denied. Hex Gates coming on in as Zeka finding so much damage. There's the steal. It's Zeus that takes it down, and the Pop Blossom doesn't do nearly enough.
They're in the pit.
They do lose 2. They have 3 left, still alive. Shattering Strike not doing too much as Doran and Guma able to take down the Rel. And now it's even footing. Faker trying to find it. The dash cannon getting him into this fight is now Viper in trouble. It takes land! And they try and keep him alive, but it does not work. Zeus trying to push them away. And him and Zek, I don't think it's going to be enough. T1 win the fight, but they don't take the Drake.
I think they'll take it though with the 2 Drake lead they have and the incredible plays they had there on the exit. It looked like HANWHA Life was maybe just going to be able to get that fight there around the pit, but T1 outplay them. The moment here where you see finally Delight gets the engage he's been looking for all game. The follow-up from Zeka, the bullet time is there, and the shock blast. That's the wombo combo you're looking for, but look at this. They get a little bit split in the outset, and then T1 are able to punish.
But this is where you think you can just exit from the play, but they want more Delight. 5 levels down, by the way. The burst from Guma and Doran just catches him completely off guard, kind of continuing his struggle. And then here, Viper, I don't think needed to flash the initial needles that came through.
Oh god, the chain's gonna have to be flashed here by Zeus as Faker doing so much work, and Oner is there with the follow-up. Hands the goat and assist, and they're going to look for a top lane out of turret.
It's again the side lane overload. We saw T1 do this so many times. Yesterday against KT, but also a lot in the last 2 years. And this time it's Zeus on the receiving end instead of being the one that benefits from it.
Yeah, and you know, it's not necessarily going to be, okay, Faker, if he wants to auto that turret, he might not be getting out alive. But either way, the thing about this side lane pressure too is that those were the big leads that HANWHA had in the top and mid lane. The solo laners had the big advantage. Now T1 win one fight, just get a little bit of power on the map. And now you can't even clear vision safely as Zeus here on this Jace when the collapse is going to come through. You're not safe. As a Jace, I mean, Wukong top used to be kind of a counter pick to this champion, but you're just not going to get away from this monkey when Oner wants to kill you.
Man, this is very intense, but T1 going from strength to strength after their victory yesterday, looking like they have not skipped a beat. 3,000 gold, the lead here in game number 1. And game number 1 is normally a pretty happy place for HLE.
That's why they have really excelled. Now the thing for T1 they need to be careful of, because this is a comp consisting of basically only squishy champions, right? There's a decent amount with the Shroud, the health that comes through for both the Wukong as well as the Silas, but you do need to be careful with that Vi in particular. The CC chain is still there from HANWHA, but we're slowly getting to the point, as mentioned, where HANWHA, unless they get a crazy execution on the play, they're just going to be outstatted behind in items, and you don't get that much leeway because you also don't have great front line.
Well, the other cool thing about T1's comp when ahead, we talked obviously about what's going to happen when one of these teams gets ahead. They'll probably steamroll, right? Well, T1 has the lead right now, and it gives Keria so much agency in this game too, because you're playing a dive comp with this Ahri Vi where you want to go on to a single target and blow them up, and then Keria could just wait and re-engage and ruin your whole setup so easily and give T1 those opportunities. You know, the Nico obviously very strong in this draft, great with Kalista, powerful in lane, but so strong when you can also then, you know, hang out in the front and deny those engages just by being in the area and then get fates called out as well. When you're ahead, T1 have so much power.
Well, right now Viper is just trying to hold on to the sliver of health this outer turret still has remaining, and Zeka could be in trouble. Spirit Rush picked up here as Keria comes in. Charm is pretty nice here and is going to land, and Keria now taking a huge chunk of damage. This could be important with the Otacon up and available. HLE looking for an opportunity.
Zeus has TP, can join at a moment's notice. If they wanted to try to say, hey, you know, 2/3 of Keria's health bar is enough to take an Otacon, but I just don't think it's the call here.
IE done now for Viper was really waiting, and if he already had that done, I think they might have actually tried to pull the trigger and at least force a fight. I don't think you can, from this position, actually commit to the Otacon.
Especially because Keria can back and get back so quickly with the Hex Gates as well, which is a big factor here.
We do see, yeah, Viper, that IE is good, but like, how much does he actually get to use it in the fights? I think that's going to be one of the big issues, because thus far, T1 have already been kind of taking him out of the game, and kind of reminiscent of what T1 did yesterday to Dokdom, with so many backline threats that they have on this team. And you're an immobile AD carry, and I'm sorry, but just that Bloodthirster shield is not going to be enough.
I forgot about it.
And he also only has some brown bags here as well that were free. But it's not quite going to help you as far as maneuverability is concerned, even with the ability to strut your stuff.
The cleanse isn't going to be enough, and the flash isn't going to be enough. You need your team to be there. You need your team, you need the setup, and you need to be the team that's getting the first kill.
Well, they're going to look for it here as Delight going to be able to use that blast cone, but he's down incredibly low and will get taken down. Possible overextension, though, as the Orbit Deception does a lot of work, as Faker dashing around the battlefield with his hijacked Spirit Rush. Now, Pop Blossom is going to find only one, but it's Zeus. That is a great target, as now Zeka looking for the chance. The bullet time doing massive damage for Doran. Now we're going to get on top of Viper, who is completely alone and will get eviscerated. The wallet's so heavy here for T1, and they just take HLE out of the fight.
It was the fake out from Keria, the double fake out. It looked like it was just the clone coming towards them, but it was him.
It was him. Zeus tries to react. But the biggest part of this is Delight dies, right? If you have that Magnet Storm, so many of these things go better for you. Maybe not the bullet time, because I think Viper couldn't have gotten any more value than he did in that one. But there wasn't any follow-up. They were so split. And so Doran just runs at Viper, the misfortune at Immobile, and now Zeka clashing with Faker.
Yeah, Chain's not going to connect here as Delight will come in, but so will Keria. Magnet Storm picked up by Faker here, taking a fair bit of damage, but they've taken the Soul Point. They've gotten exactly what they want. And Faker is able to keep himself alive. 5,000 gold now, the lead for T1.
So the whole thing here is Delight coming forward, gets rooted, buffers it, gets away, but they know where he is. Faker's just not going to give him even a second. No space here. Comes in with his ultimate. They get the knockups. Oner takes him out. And now for HANWHA Esports, how are you going to re-engage without that? And then the trick here from Keria. And Zeus tries to boop him away, but the damage is done. And Viper, he gets enough space from that hammer to actually channel his ultimate fully, but then they just run towards him and kill him because he's misfortune, and they didn't get any kills.
Just didn't have the damage.
A little bit more CC could have been the difference maker, as you highlight. Had that Rel been alive, that could have been playable. But T1, as they often do, when they get in this position where the game is just messy, there's fights happening everywhere. And I gotta say, if you're Ari and you're playing into double clone and a Shroud, that's annoying. Yeah. That's not fun.
Look at this guy, just sending Merkwolves into the enemy jungle. Kind of love this from Keria. Very cool stuff. As, all right, Doran going to get jumped on here by Zeus, but he doesn't look too worried about it. They do get into the circle as Doran just blasts his way out of there. No flashes, no flash, sorry, on Doran, but it's only Faker that's missing it outside of, and Keria on T1, but Gumayusi having his, Oner having his, very important here for T1.
I mean, T1, they're going to have Fate's call back in just 10 seconds here, and they have full control over this choke point. They don't necessarily need to start Baron, but they are going to keep HANWHA worried and interested, and that's big potential. HANWHA tried to come in here and face check. Just a lot of pressure around the fact that HANWHA don't have any idea where T1 are. Look how careful and methodical they have to be to come over and clear this out. And I think with the misfortune in this composition, who's also currently backing, there's no way HANWHA can go, oh, well, they're not here. We'll threaten this. It's not in that game state.
Yeah. It's making us look back at that draft and think, you know, perhaps something with a little added range. Like the Jhin could have worked.
Yeah, I thought the Jhin was the right call.
I gotta say, though, when I look at how the early skirmishes played out, I don't know if anything that HANWHA could have picked could have made the difference, right?
It's a good point.
I do think that map none of us are a fan of. I don't think that it has been effective for a long time, right? We've seen even some of the best maps, Rule or Aiming, kind of drop it for that exact reason. And as an AD carry, the most value you're going to get, and this scenario is Viper is obviously just getting that one good ult, but the Light has also been struggling, so that's not really happening.
And I don't know if the Jhin would have helped Peanuts over extensions in those first few fights, which is really where the big story is here. It's not like Viper's having a bad game. He's 0-3-2, but that's because he's MF, and that's because his team is behind into this insane engage composition here from T1 with melees that can just rip you to shreds.
Yeah. Speaking of being ripped to shreds, Peanut going to try and get over the wall, but the flash is there for Oner, and he just knocks down the Vi. There is nowhere that Peanut is safe in this game.
And T1 were ready to say, we're going to trade Vi for Kalista, but the way they did it and the setup they got feels so powerful. And this Vi that has just not been allowed to be played in any of our road to MSI. It is just our most banned champion here in the LCK. Peanut has a 0-5-2 performance on it in T1. They're very happy with the risk they took.
Viper doesn't have his flash available.
There is also no jungler. So let's see whether HLE can try and kill T1 before they take this Baron. It looks like it's going to be impossible. Under 4,000 health as Delight goes in, finds the Magnet Storm. Let's see whether they can get the kills with the Pop Blossom. Doesn't do too much. They take down the Gwen, but this is still Baron picked up for T1. They go for the fight and they're looking to try and turn it. Gumayusi takes down Zeka. They've dealt with this Rel at the same time, and T1 say we'll just take everything.
Well, there you go. That's probably the game-winning play. They already had such a massive lead. We didn't expect HANWHA was going to be able to win that fight as Keria potentially punished here. We're getting trolled by the observers. Oner going to check it out.
Oh, dear. No, I think it might be Peanut getting punished here just a little bit. Slowed down by the Rend. Nimbus Strike going to be coming up pretty soon here, and Faker comes on over. He's just going to escort Oner in and escort HLE out of this first game.
And we can talk about the drafts, but for me, it's just the form of HANWHA Life. They look desynced. They don't really seem like they were ready for the high-tempo playstyle that, again, T1 has been playing towards this exact type of skirmishy brawly style for a while. Now this fight, we kind of knew it was a done deal from the beginning. This is just a Hail Mary attempt from HANWHA.
Yeah, I mean, Zeus is looking for Shock Blast angle and some time. Faker doesn't let him have it. Keria's ultimate does practically nothing, but it doesn't matter because the fight is just so split because T1 have full control over this area. Peanut wasn't alive. He wasn't there. And right afterwards, he tries to punish, and he dies, and now he's not alive here for what is going to finally be Hextech Soul here for T1. And this game could not be more over.
It could not. So that is going to be the soul picked up here for T1. They're going to be able to push in this bottom lane. They've already taken the mid lane inhibitor. And Zeus, he's looking for a bit of bounty gold. And I assume T1 are okay with him taking it because it's not going to save his Nexus.
We had 2 T1 predictors, and on our global side, we had several 3-0 HANWHA predictors. HANWHA Life came in as the massive favorites, but T1 having the momentum carried on from yesterday into this first game for sure. I think a lot of people are rethinking expectations after this one.
Yeah, me included, feeling a little bit silly for some of my opening statements here because it did feel like HLE were the better team before, based on our assessment. But momentum is so powerful, and T1 in this stadium, man, just feels like they are unlocked an extra level. And Faker now picking up a Magna Storm for himself. That is going to be 2 inhibitors. This is, of course, feeling like a little bit of ceremony because this game is all but over. That is going to be a bit of an engage on Doran, but he does go into the mist and now looks to fight 4 people. Going golden here. Those big old scissors doing some work. There is the Magna Storm finally. The bullet time coming in, but the wallets are so big. The pop loss are massive as well, and T1 just slaughter them in their own house, and they'll destroy it at the same time. T1 1-0 in the series.
From the perspective